Hey, what's up everyone? It's John with Superfly, BeSuperfly.com. I've seen this effect here in a few spots online and in different Divi groups and such, and I wanted to add it to a theme that I'm working on, and then I'll probably add it to a couple sites that I'm working on, a couple technology sites. And I may not use it in the header. I might use it maybe more in like a testimonial area. Um, But yeah, I guess I can give a sneak peek of one of the sites I'm working on, so that way you can see how I'm going to use this. But today we're going to go over how to implement this, and by default it looks like this. This is it's a jQuery plugin or a JavaScript plugin. But with tweaking the settings, you can also have more of them. You can have fewer of them, and I'm going to close these as I do this because it's all taxing. You can change the colors of these lines and dots. You can make them bigger separately, like the dots can be bigger or the lines can be bigger. You can take those dots away and just have these cool lines floating around. You could have more of a matrix kind of thing here, lots more lines. You can also control which way this thing floats. Like right now it just stays in the center, but you can make it constantly go to the right or constantly go to the left. You can have just the dots and no lines, so it's like a snow effect almost. Make those bigger, more like a bubbles kind of thing. I've seen people call it that. And then lastly, we're going to end up somewhere around here. We're going to show you how to add this in Divi. This is in Divi here, with a gradient background over an image. We'll actually do a video too. I wouldn't recommend having a moving pattern over a video because there's a lot going on. But you can do it if you want, and we'll show you how to do it. So as you can imagine, this tutorial today is going to be quite a bit. This is actually the theme that I'm working on, and I actually had this in there, and that's why I thought, you know what, I should just get that working so I could use it in like the background of this section here, or maybe in this section, instead of having this gradient picture, it was just the gradient with that going on. And there would be this tie-in to this graphic up here that I had for, platform architecture type stuff. So first thing you're going to want to do if you're going to want to follow with this tutorial is you're just going to want to Google Particleground, and you're going to get this GitHub here, and here's the official demo, and then here's the GitHub page. So I'll go ahead and clear mine out here. And so the first thing I did was I just downloaded it, and or you can click download here, and I unzipped it, and then I just launched the demo index.html. You can see it sitting on my desktop there. And so I'm going to go ahead and open up Atom here, and inside Atom here, let me go back to the page. So basically, when you open up what you download here, there's a demo folder here, and there's index file, and you can also see inside the demo there's a JS folder with this demo.js, and that demo.js is what I'm going to be messing around with for now. So you should have the index open up. Mine opens up in Firefox by default. Chrome. For some reason, mine isn't open up in Chrome. There we go. All right, so this is the default, and then I just went and I opened up this demo in Atom here. Great. And so by default, it just gives you a couple items here. First of all, this is JavaScript, which I'm not a JavaScript expert. But it's basically saying go out and find the ID of particles in the HTML and apply this effect. And I bet inside this thing, if I open this up in Atom, there's the div ID particles, and it's probably going around the whole page. So it's going out and finding the ID particles, which is this whole div right here. Which is the only div on the whole page. There's the body tags, and it's applying this effect to that, right? And so right now only two things are set: the dot color and the line color. And if I look this color here. I'm going to open up Photoshop. That color is this green color, which is the color of the lines and dots right now. So, to start off easy, first easy things to do is you can go in and choose this yellow, copy that, and let's say we want the lines to be yellow. So I'll just save this on my computer here, and then all I have to do is come and just refresh, and now those dots, or those lines are yellow. I can do the same thing for the dots. And you have a Green Bay Packer homepage. So you can kind of see some of the effects there. I'm going to put it back how it was because those colors are not good. Okay, now I'm going to leave it because it really demonstrates. You can really see it really good and really well, and it's going to demonstrate the other things that I do. So on the GitHub page, you can see there's these options down here. And there's minimum speed, max speed. You can mess around with those if you want, but things I'm gonna choose to mess around with right off the bat. We're gonna mess around with direction for a little bit. So right now, by default, it's set to center, and so it kind of hangs in the center. So if I go in here and I grab direction X, which is the horizontal axis, and I'm going to say right. So I'm going to go up here, and very important to add a comma after that one, and just go down to the next line and paste in my direction X, and then in quotes there I'm going to do right. And the last line doesn't have to have a comma. You can have one if you want, but that's fine. So now I'm going to refresh, and you'll see that the whole thing is moving to the right, even if I'm not doing anything. I'm also going to do that to the direction Y. I'm going to say up. So it's going to move to the right and up. Maybe you have a call to action up there you want folks to notice, like the contact button or something like that. I don't know why else you would do this. But now when I refresh, it's moving up and to the right. So it's heading over to the top right corner because that's where my buy now button is or something like that. So there's a couple deals doing with direction. Next we'll mess with this density. It's set at 10,000 by default, and you want to play around with it. You want to keep it around 5,000 to 15,000, 5,000 to 15,000. Otherwise, it'll probably kill your processor. So you want to be careful with that. So let's try 15,000, and we'll see what this does. And sometimes I like to keep the regular one open, and then the original one, and then paste in my new one. So it looks like when I put 15,000, there are fewer things happening here. So now I'm going to change this to 5,000. And there are quite a bit more. You can see it's already starting to impact the performance here, probably because I have two of them open, and I'm recording a video. And this one is open too, which I'm going to go ahead and kill that one. But still, it's not liking that very much. So, but that is possible. I wouldn't recommend that one. So let me get rid of that, and we should be back to where we started. All right, moving on. Dot color and line color. We already talked about those. Particle radius. This one's fun. Default is 7. We're going to go in here, and we're going to say 17. And as you can imagine, I bet this is going to make it bigger, right? Yeah, so that makes the circles bigger. So if I change it to 1 or 0, then now I don't even have dots anymore. I just have lines happening. Let me try 1 to see if it even makes a difference. A tiny one. I like this better, actually. Can't tell you why, but I do. So that's neat. Let's keep moving on. Line width. So as you can imagine, that's going to determine how big our lines are. Default is 1. I'll keep this one and do line width. Let's do 5. Yeah, and I would probably just ditch, I'd probably make the dot 0, which would probably smooth out. And let's say 3. 5's a little obnoxious. There we go. That's kind of cool. Like a disco type. You know, if you had a sweet band picture behind this, like Panic at the Disco homepage or something like that, or Fall Out Boy, that would be sweet. Or any band for that matter. I don't know why I picked those two. I mean, I do like them. Let me go back to the options here. Curved lines is false. We'll say it's the true, and you'll see that this is, I'll get rid of this line width, so it'll go back to 1. Curved lines, we'll say true, but I'm not a huge fan of this one. But it curves the lines. Could be cool if you're into that. Proximity is also fun. Another one you got to be careful with the amount that you put in. By default, it's 100, so I'm going to half it and say 50. And let's see what happens. Okay, let's double it to 200 and see what happens. Alrighty, so this one runs pretty well, but if I jack it up to like 500, it's just going to be a mess and probably run slow. I bet. Oh, a little slow, but it keeps it up. But that could be a cool effect. Maybe I probably wouldn't go much above 350, 300. But if you're doing some like science and technology fair kind of deal, this could be sweet. Or a web or something like that. There's a couple other ones I wanted to, Parallax Multiplier and Parallax. This is kind of cool. So let me set Parallax to false, and it's just going to make it static. Wait, that didn't work. Let me try that again. Yeah, I don't think I have to put it in quotes, actually. Oh, that's why. Okay, so now it's just going to be, I can move my mouse around. It's not going to affect it. It's not going to make you seasick. It's just going to do the effect in place. So yeah, so the reason why that didn't work is some things like colors and some items like center, left, right, those have to be in a single quote. And things like numbers and true, false, Boolean, what they call true, false, those don't have to be, those should not be in quote. And so when I had written false in quotes, it just chose to ignore it. So if you're ever working on one of these like I just was, like, why is this not working? It says false, but it's doing it. It's because you probably don't need those quotes, or you're missing this comma right here. Like, again, every line should have one except the last line. There we go. I'm going to keep, so yeah, that with a proximity jacked up could be pretty sweet. Let's do a comma, proximity 300. And it's just going to stay there. And if there was more to the page, it would scroll. But so let's get rid of those two things. So now we're back to our default parallax one, but this time I'm going to go in and grab this parallax multiplier. It's set to 5. So I'm going to say, I'm going to try 15. See what this does. Okay, so when I move, it's not moving it as much. So I'm going to go down to 1. That is kind of cool too. A little extreme, but that's pretty sweet, especially if you go back to my proximity friend. 300. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't really like that. But that is cool. Let me go back here. Let me try with adding the comma at the end. I think you can either or that, have it or not. Yep, cool. Okay, so that's pretty much most of the settings that I wanted to go through. I'm sure there's something to this min and max speed. I really haven't. You can mess with that. I didn't choose to. But I'm going to pause the video and then we're going to jump in to figure out how to apply this inside a Divi page. So I'll be right back with the Divi page loaded and we'll get to work. Alright, I'm back, and welcome back if you took a break. So here I am in the back of the Divi builder here. I have a page set up, pretty simple page here. We have 2 column text and 3 column text down here at the bottom. And then at the top I just have 2 full width headers, one for mobile and one for not mobile. I'm actually disabling this effect on mobile because I feel like, let me zoom down here. So after mobile I just get rid of it. I feel like maybe it might be taxing on smartphone processors. Maybe not though anymore. So that's up to you. So basically with that mobile one, I just have it, disabled on desktop and iPad and then enabled on mobile. And then as you can guess on this one, I have it enabled on desktop and tablet. So that's the only difference between these two, and the couple class names are different. And then I have a full width section here holding the full width code, which I had down here in the full width header. I had this down here like so, and then I wouldn't need this. But then I have some CSS in here that I wanted on the mobile one, and since this one is disabled on the mobile one, the code was getting disabled as well, so I just decided to have it its own deal. Alright, so basically first you make a full width section and you add a full width code module. It can be empty, and then next step would be to add a second full width section, and we'll worry about this mobile one later. I'm going to go ahead and collapse this guy. We'll worry about that later. And then a key thing for this full width header is for the section that you have it in, we're going to put an ID of Particleground on that. And then I'm going to go ahead and, actually I'm just going to do this from scratch with you. So let me just disable this. And update. So now I should have nothing going on here. Yep, okay, great. And then so I got my code module there, and then I'm going to do a full width section, and I'm going to insert a full width header. I'm just going to close that for now. It's going to sit there. And in my ID here, I'm going to say Particleground, like so. And save. And then I guess I might as well just fill in a title here. Particleground. Add particle to Divi background, to Divi section background, or something like that. And before I had certain styling for this, but I'll just leave it like this. But I do want text color to be light. Left is fine. Make full screen, yes. And for now, I'm just going to set this background color to black. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to cut all this out of here so there's no code in there. Okay, so once you've done those steps, you should have this page right here. Not much to write home about. All right, and then I'm going to open up the particleground.html that comes with this tutorial. There's a link for this. And I'm going to walk through what this exactly is. So at first word, all of this is going to go in this full width code module here. And a lot of this first part here looks familiar because we copied it from the demo here. And so basically this script part here is going in, and I've set the dot colors to white. But first we have to go out and grab the JavaScript that makes this possible. And it's this file, this jQuery Particleground.min.js. And actually, when you downloaded the Particleground master, you got that file right here. So I would suggest uploading this to your web server and using your own link for this part, because eventually this link will be gone. But for now, you can use this one. But I would highly recommend using your own, or if you don't want to use the minified version, you can use the regular version, which is double this file size, but 14K is not that bad. So first, as I do that, and if I look at this file online, it's just going to be like, ugh, that. But props to Jonathan for making this. This is great. So that's step one, is we link to that and we grab our demo code there. So I'm going to copy this over, and let's start with this. All right. So it did a couple things. It threw in the particle, but then you'll notice that the particle is way up here, and our full width header stuff is down here. And so some CSS is going to fix that. And I'm going to go through some of this here. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to set the Particleground ID, which the Particleground ID is on our section. If you remember here, this full width header section here has got the Particleground ID. So when I say Particleground ID, that's what I'm talking about. I can even put section here if I wanted to, like that, but this is fine. Position relative, and then I'm saying Particleground canvas, and if I inspect this image here, or this page, you'll see that the particles are all happening in this canvas deal. If I say display none right here, then it takes it away and we have our full width header. So I wonder if I say, yeah, okay, block is fine. So basically what I'm doing to this canvas is I'm setting its position to be absolute. And then since I set the section to relative, which might be by default, I'm just doing it just in case, it fixes that issue. So now we can see our Particleground up here. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my code module here. And underneath this code, I'm going to add some style. And you could instead put the CSS in your Divi theme options. I'm just going to put it right here, but you could put it in the theme options instead. So we got our first little piece here, and then yeah, those are the first two things I'm going to do. Copy, and you also see on the canvas here, I'm making the opacity 20% of the canvas piece, because right now it's too much. All right, so I paste that in. There's my relative, my opacity. Let's see where we are now. I'm going to get rid of this real quick here so it runs a little better. There we go. We're getting somewhere. All right, that looks pretty good. And now we can do some of these options that we went over earlier. I'm just going to do a couple. I'm going to go over to our demo here. Particle radius 0. I like that one. I want to keep that one, so I'm going to go up here and add that one in. I'll get rid of the comma. And then instead of I'm going to say 0.3 on the opacity. So I'll go ahead and copy this script here and copy that script there. Go into my full width code. And so first I'm replacing this script, and then I'm changing the opacity to 0.3. So now when I update and look at it, I should no longer have these dots, It should just be the lines, and they'll be a little brighter. There we go. That's sweet. I love it. All right, moving on. I'm going to add in some a background image here. So I already have one kind of ready to go. So my full width header, I'm going to upload a background image. Here it is. Got this one from Elegant Themes blog post back in the day. And for the time being, I'm going to not use parallax. I'm just going to use it as a static image. Okay, so this image was already kind of in Photoshop. It was already kind of darkened and whatnot, but yours might be really bright. And so if that's the case, then you could go in here and mess around with the padding and take it out, and then you could add an overlay color here. Like for example, I can add in let's do like a purple like this. And I forgot to do that padding, so I bet there's going to be space at the top and bottom of this. Oh, no, there's not. Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, I could go in and I could change that if I wanted to. But I'm also going to go in here. I'm going to get rid of that overlay real quick. Or just set it to clear. And I'm going to add in this. I had a gradient background piece here. I'm going to go ahead and copy this gradient. I'm actually going to copy from here down here, all the way down to right before style, right there. Copy that. And there's two bits of code here. I'm going to copy all of that and hop over. You'll be able just to grab the whole thing. But I'm going to go right before that closing style tag. I'm going to paste in all that code. And I'm going to hit save and exit. And then to apply this animated gradient, or sorry, not the animated, with a gradient background. I'm going to say gradient background there. I'm going to grab this class, gradient background, and I'm going to go apply it to our section. This is getting a little advanced, so I mean, this is cool how it is here, but with a little bit of CSS work, we now have a gradient set by these two colors, and you'll see that our text now is behind the gradient, and that's because when I added this gradient, it adds it to the before part of the section. And so if I just add in this one line here, it's going to fix all of that. So what I'm going to do now actually is I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to select all of this here, select all, and I'm going to copy all of it. This is what you'll do. You'll just go over to this full width code, you'll select all, clean this all out, and just paste in everything. But I wanted to show you why some of that code needs to happen to prevent this from happening here. So now when I refresh, that is above. And now my 0.3 here is a little too much. So maybe I'll say 0.2 on that canvas. And then this is where the RGB colors are for the gradient. So for example, say I don't want purple to orange. Let's say I want yellow, no thanks. Let's say I want pink here. Pink to orange. And so this RGB is 228, 36, and 212. So usually what I do is I just kind of move over here. And so we got 223. Oops, that's the wrong spot. Right up, this is the one, gradient background. 223, 36 and 212. 36 and then 212. And it's doing these at 80%. If you made this 1, you wouldn't even see the background image. But we'll pump them up to 0.9 and you'll see. Alright, so copy everything again. And then we'll go back to our full width code. Copy, select all, get rid of it, paste it in. There we go. You can barely see the image. That's because we have 90% opacity on the gradient colors, but we have pink to orange. And there's those, so let's go, I'm going to back off to 80% here. And I think I'll like that better. Select all, copy, save. Update. That looks a little better. And you don't have to go into Photoshop to get the hex colors. You could go into like this background color here. If I choose this green, it gives me the hex color by default. But if I just move this down, I think we're using 80%. And there's my RGBA colors, so I could just copy this. So for example, if I wanted this up here to be blue, I could go in, choose a cool blue color, make it 80%, and just highlight this, copy it, and maybe just go back to black on that, full black, that's fine. Come into my second color, RGBA, and there's 2 brackets there. I want the first one. That way there's 2 of them there. Perfect. Select all, copy. And before you do any edits, I always recommend just backing up the code, the original code. But now instead of having this orange, which I actually like that, it's going to be blue though up there, which is cool too. That's cool, sweet. That's pretty sweet too. So 2 more things left to do. One is I have a gradient, an animated gradient to throw in here, and then we'll do a video behind this. And I think at this point I can actually go ahead and make this image parallax, because when you make a background image, a parallax image, it actually puts the background image in its own div. And so before, that was messing up with the stacking order. Remember before this particle ground, we couldn't really see it that well because it was behind a layer. Well, some CSS put everything in the right order so that you don't have to deal with that. So now our image is parallax. That's pretty sweet. Or I could go out and I have a video link from one of the bands that I'm in here. We'll put that in here instead. We'll put that right there. There we go. I don't know why you would want that, but if you get rid of these particles, you have a gradient effect over a video, which is pretty sweet. And then lastly, you'll see in the code that I gave you, there is this animated gradient background code right here. And so before, when we used gradient background for a class, this time I'm going to grab animated gradient background. I'm going to copy that. And this time on the section, I'm going to get rid of gradient background and replace it with animated gradient background. Update. And then refresh. And now we're going to have way too much going on. We're going to have a background video with particles on top with an animated gradient happening on it. But you could easily go in and take things out that you didn't want. And yeah, and then at this point, you could duplicate this layer and then edit it to only show on desktop or whatnot, and then have a mobile safe one, like I did here. Let me enable my mobile one here, and let me disable this one on mobile, because that's a lot for a that's a lot for a phone right there. So let me refresh. So now when I get down to 600 pixels, it's just going to give me, this effect here. So a lot happening in this tutorial. I wish I could answer every support. Again, this is a free tutorial, and I do plan on adding this into a theme here, and I'll probably add it into Anthem as well because it kind of fits the whole deal. But download the links, play around with it, have fun, and yeah, if you need any help, visit this documentation. It should have some good amount of instructions on there. So thanks again for all the support, and yeah, have a great day.